Hi, today we are talking about factoring company. Most trucking companies will use a factoring company because they are short on funds or they just don't want to use their own money or for other reasons. Well, let me tell you about my experiences with factoring company. Let me also tell you first that I have been in business without using a factoring company, which means I would use my own money and not use a factoring company. I would charge brokers directly, and I've been also using a factoring company. Actually, I've used several of them, and then I can tell you about my experiences. So let's start. Now, I'm not going to mention any names. There are some big names in that industry. Everyone knows them, and I used a couple of those large ones and one small factoring company. First thing you have to figure out before you sign into a contract is read some reviews, try to find them online, try to go to the social network websites, Google reviews, ask others if you know someone that's already in trucking industry, or even ask them for references. So if you talk to an agent from a factoring company, ask them if they can give out references so you can call an actual trucking company and ask them about them. So another thing you have to see is, of course, the percentage that they will be taking. If you are new, if you're just starting, if you're a small trucking company, most likely they're going to charge you right now 2 to 3%. It used to be more, but right now it's around that 2 to 3% rate, and then after a while, after you get more trucks, you can usually negotiate with them to lower that rate. Now, there is also another thing that you have to take into account. A long time ago, factoring companies would only give you a 90% advance, and then they would give you the remainder once the broker pays them. So if you do a load and you do it for $1,000 and they charge you 3%, they will, of course, keep the $30, but then they will also pay you $900 right away. So after they charge the broker, after they get their money from the broker after a month or so, then they will give you the remainder, which is $70, because remember, they keep $30 for themselves. Lately, that has not been the case. Lately, they would pay you everything right away. So if you book a load for $1,000, then they will pay you $970 right away if they're charging you 3%. So you have to look into that too. Also, some factoring companies will claim that if the broker does not pay, that they will not charge you, they will still pay you that money. Well, sometimes that's not true, because see, sometimes they have an article in their contract where it says only if the broker goes bankrupt, then they will not charge you back for that money that they owe to them. But if the broker does not go bankrupt, for some reason they just decide not to pay you, then usually they will not pay you either. The factoring company will charge you back on your next batch from another load. They will take their money back. So they have these recourse and non-recourse terms, but you have to be careful. You have to ask the agent, the salesman that you're working with, about that. You have to ask them specifically, in case the broker does not pay, will you pay me, and stuff like that. You have to go into very detailed specifics. Another thing you have to be aware of is that usually they have a 1-year contract. Sometimes it might be more, it might be less, but if they tell you that they don't have a contract, you should be very suspicious of that, because usually they will have some kind of contract. And that 1-year contract does not mean that it's gonna expire by itself. Usually, if you want to switch factoring companies, you have to give them a notice, and it has to be a written notice. And you have to look at the contract too, like how far in advance before that renewal date you have to send them a notice. It could be a month, 2 or 3 months. And also ask them which address do you send it to. I was using one factoring company, and then when I was switching to another one, I sent them the notice to different addresses, because they have different offices and different email addresses, and I have been burned by them before, and I didn't want them to say, hey, we didn't get your notice. So I just made sure, but we'll talk about that later, how to switch factoring companies. For now, we're just talking about getting started. And then always shop around, always call 2 or 3 factoring companies and ask them for the rates, and then choose the best one. I think you can't go wrong by getting one of those major factoring companies that everyone knows. But also, what I found, there was this one small factoring company out of Chicago, and actually I did get a really good rate with them. It was 1%, but the company had been already in business for about 5-6 years, and they had a very good service. Another thing you have to take into account, if you're using a factoring company, they're going to put a lien on your company. So just know that. So if you're trying to get a loan, or if you're trying to do something else, that lien will be there because they own your invoices. You're selling them the invoices. You're getting your loads from the brokers, but when you're about to send invoice, the factoring company actually buys that invoice from you, and they own it. It's their invoice now, so you don't have any money coming in after that. You don't have receivables like that, like other companies do. They're waiting for other people that owe them money. They're waiting for their checks. They have receivables. You don't. As soon as you send it to the factoring company, no matter if you're doing a same-day wire or an ACH, as soon as you get that money from them, then it's their invoice. You don't own it anymore. I'm not saying factoring companies are bad, because if it wasn't for them, a lot of trucking businesses would not be in business. Because let's say you have one truck, you're starting with one truck. Well, with current rates, you need probably $20,000 to $30,000 in your account just to service that one truck, because you have to give them salary, you have to pay for the maintenance, for the fuel. Even if this is an owner-operator, you still have to pay them their 90%, because you're only keeping 10%, and you haven't even charged the broker yet, or you have charged them but you haven't received the money. So you have to have $20,000 to $30,000 to cover all those expenses, and of course pay yourself too. So you have to have that before you start, if you're not using a factoring company, and most people don't have that or don't want to involve their own money. But think about it, if you have 1 to 5 trucks, you can save a lot of money, like $20,000 to $30,000 a year. You can save if you have more trucks. And then that money you can keep for yourself. But of course, if you're starting with 4 trucks, you need at least $100,000 if you want to work like that. Of course, you can get a line of credit, but if you're a new company, it's practically impossible to get a line of credit from a bank, and you can use that money to cover all the expenses. We'll go over pros and cons between using a factoring company or using your own money too. But for now, this is what you have to look into in the contract when you're signing up for a factoring company. Remember, this company for next year or maybe even more years is going to be your partner. Not partner in the sense that they co-own your business, but they will be paying you. So whatever you do, any load you do with your broker or your customer or a shipper, they will be paying you, and you have to choose carefully who you're going to work with on a daily basis, because if there is a problem, they will not pay you. If the bill of lading is blurry, or if you have 3 pages on a bill of lading and one of them is missing, because they would mark them usually like one of three, 2 of 3, 3 of 3 on the bill of lading, and then one of them is missing, you don't have it, or your driver didn't send it to you, well, the factoring company will not pay you. If the receiver has not signed the bill of lading, you're not getting paid. a lot of stuff like that. So if you're doing a batch once a week and you send them 20 invoices, you have to carefully review each rate confirmation, each bill of lading, and then even sometimes they will just decline the bill of lading or the invoice for no reason. I mean, they will have a reason, but they don't. There is nothing wrong with the bill of lading. It didn't scan correctly. Someone at their end didn't see it. The broker's name don't match. There are a lot of things that can go wrong, and then if they don't accept it, and you count on that money for the next day, then you're not getting it. You have to figure out what happened, and you have to go back, re-upload it. So just be aware that this is going to be your partner in that sense. You're getting the money from them, and a lot of things depend on them, so you have to know who you're partnering up with. It also means a lot who are you working with on their end, because they will assign you an agent or a contact person or your rep. That's what they call them, account reps, I think. And if that's a good guy or a girl and they know what they're doing, then you'll be okay. But then this can take 2 or 3 months or a year, and everything is fine, and then suddenly that person goes away, they assign you someone else, and that other person does a really bad job, and then you're stuck with them, and now you have a problem. Speaking about that, let's compare the two. Let's compare the using factoring company versus non-factoring your invoices, meaning you use your own money. A pro for the factoring company is you get the money right away, same day or next day, or in a couple of days. And that's a big plus. You have that money and you can work with the money right away. Another thing is you don't have to worry about sending each invoice to a different broker. You only send your invoices to one agency, and then they will send it away to different brokers and different customers. So that's another thing. One more thing, you can upload your invoices in a batch. So if you have 20 invoices, you would upload them all together and just send them away, and they will get it, and they know what to do with them, and they just send you the payment. So that's another plus. But let me also tell you about that. I used to send invoices every week or a couple of times a week, and then I started sending them out every day because if you count, let's say you do Thursday is your payroll day, and then you do it on Wednesday, send out the invoices on Wednesday to your factoring company, and you get the money on Thursday, and then you can release all that money to your drivers. Well, what if they don't accept a bill of lading or a rate confirmation, or something is wrong with any of them? Suddenly you're short $2,000 or $5,000, and now you don't have the money. I figured it would be better to send out invoices every day. No matter if you have 1 invoice or 10 invoices a day, I would send them out every day. That way I know come Thursday when the payroll is, or whenever they deduct the fuel from your account on a weekly basis, then you know that bill of lading was not okay this day, and it's okay if we miss it. You don't get the money tomorrow, you'll get it next day, because next day you'll be able to fix that bill of lading, whatever wrong was with it, and then resubmit it. So that way you always know if there's something wrong with the bill of lading, then you can just re-upload the next day, and then you're fine. If you're waiting for everything, and then suddenly 3 invoices are no good, then you're pulling your hairs out on the day when you need the money. This way you do it every day, and you get the money every day. So that's a thing about that. Let's talk about pros with using your own money for these invoices. Now, a big pro is you're saving 1 to 3% on your invoice. So you're not giving that money away. You can keep it for yourself, and it adds up. That adds up. Like when you expand, and let's say you get to like 5 or 10 trucks, that adds up a lot. And you can, use half of that money to pay someone to do the invoices for you and still keep half of the money. Saving money is one pro. Another pro side is that you have the money coming in. You're expecting that money. With time, you add up the amount that they owe you. Your account receivables, they add up. It's like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, and it comes to 100,000, couple of $100,000, and then the brokers owe you that money. You had to invest your own money or use a credit for that. But then once you get into that wheel after a year or two or more, then they owe you money. Then you have actual account receivables. No one owes that invoice except for you. You own the invoice. And that's nice to have that in the back of your head, that money is coming in. Eventually it will come in 30 days, in 40 days, in 2 weeks, in 2 months. It doesn't matter. It will still come in. So if something goes down, you have to shut down your company. Something bad happens, you still have those $100,000 come in, and you can count on that money, and you can use that money for whatever you want. Like start a new company, use it for your loans, whatever you need. That's a good thing that you have that money coming in. Another pro thing is that you don't have to worry about all these little, like your invoices are not going to be rejected as often as they do with factoring companies. And people don't know that. When I was sending invoices directly to brokers, I was amazed, like 1 out of 50 invoices, or even 1 out of every 100 invoices would be like, hey, we don't see a receiver signature, or something is wrong, then I would resubmit, or I will point them to that signature, and then we'll be okay. If you go with a factoring company, like I guarantee you, every 10 or 15 invoices, they're gonna find a problem, and then you have to go look for it and then resend it, and that's a pain in the butt. If you have to do that with brokers, it's much easier to deal with. Another thing is, like if you have a factoring company and brokers owe them money for your invoice, they will call them up and say, hey, you guys are not paying, what's up? If they can't get a hold of the broker or they are not paying, then they will ask you, they say, hey, can you call them up and then see if they're gonna pay? So they need your help because you're the one that did the load for them, and it's different, and they would tell you that themselves. It's different if you call them up and say, hey, how come you guys are not paying? We did the load fair and square, you still haven't paid us. If the broker is not paying, then you can call them and tell them, hey, what's up with that? And they will talk to you, and they will usually send it right away or try to figure out what happened, why it hasn't been paid. And people are kind of scared. They think that the factoring company has their back with paying invoices from brokers. Well, listen to me. Factoring company does not have your back. One more time, factoring company does not have your back when it comes to paying, getting paid from the brokers. They will do their best. It's in their interest too to get the payment from the broker. If the broker decides not to pay you or them, they can't do anything about it. They can't make them pay. So the factoring company does not have your back. They will just charge you back. They will say, hey, well, they're not paying us. We'll just charge you back, and they'll get their money. They will get their money, but you're not. If you are sending invoices directly to brokers, don't worry about not getting paid, because if the broker decides not to pay, they will not pay you, nor will they pay the factoring company. They won't pay anyone either way. So it doesn't matter who sends them the bill of lading or the invoice. The factoring company will not fight for you. You will fight for you. You will call them up and ask them what's going on, and beg them, threaten them, whatever you have to do, or file a claim against their bond. But the factoring company will do none of that. They will just say, hey, well, they'll make a note, oh yeah, we called on this day at this time, and they said blah blah blah. That's all they're gonna do. So they don't have your back. Don't think about that. So if you were to ask me, if you have both options, if you can do both, especially if you have one truck only, and most trucking companies start with one truck. If you have one truck, I will ask you to not go with the factoring company. I'll tell you right now, you can do it yourself. You can try it. It's never too late to start working with a factoring company. Some of them will let you pick and choose your invoices. You don't have to factor all invoices. You can work. Some brokers will pay in a couple of weeks. Some brokers will do quick pay. But I also don't advise to do that. Quick pay, you will pay more for quick pay than you're going to pay a factoring company. So if you're going to do that, you might as well go with a factoring company. Don't do quick pay unless you really need money. Sometimes that you have to do what you have to do in order to survive. But if you're planning to do quick pay on each load, then don't do that. You're just going to spend a lot of money. And believe me, it's not that quick. They can tell you 1, 2, 5 days. Well, it's not. They can come up with all kinds of excuses not to pay you in that time frame. The best thing is to do just to send it in a regular 30-day net or whatever they have, and then just wait for your money, because quick pay is not a long-term solution. So I advise you, if you have one truck, try it. If you think that you're spending too much money, you're not getting the money on time, then you can always switch to factoring. That doesn't matter. But I would at least try it for a month or two, and then it will be hard at the beginning. You may have to use your savings or get a loan or borrow money. But at least you are the one that owns the invoices. You don't have to deal with a factoring company. And then now we're going to talk about switching factoring companies, because they will go bad. They will go bad due to many reasons. You may enjoy their services for a year or two or more, but something will change. Their philosophy is going to change. They're going to sell to someone else. The company, someone else will own it. Your account rep will change. A lot of things can change, and then you're stuck with them because you need to wait until the contract expires, and then you have to send them a notice that you're going to someone else, and then you have to deal with that. So we can actually count that as a bad side of having a factoring company, because when you're about to switch, that's going to be pain in the butt. I tell you that right now. So when you switch, it's going to be tough. I did that once. So first year I wanted to switch, and I missed that. I missed the deadline, okay, because I didn't send it on time, or they didn't receive it on time. Something happened, but I missed the deadline, so I had to wait for another year. I had to deal with the bad account rep for another year. For the whole year, I had to deal with bad people, and that was not fun. But when I went through the contract, I found someone that I'm going to switch to. Actually, about 6 months before the contract expires with the old factoring company. So I talked to them, and they gave me some advice. And then I talked to the people at the old factoring company, and I told them, hey, I'm going to be switching. What do I have to do? And then they told me that I read the contract. So I found out where they have offices, where the main offices, all their emails, my sales rep, account rep, everything I could, customer service. And I wrote down cancellation letter. I sent it to everyone, and I required a signature. There was what is it called, like a certification that they would receive the actual cancellation. I required it on all that mail. I paid a lot of money, but I just wanted to make sure that they get it and that I have a proof that I sent it, because they were getting bad. They were starting to lie and use whatnot. So I sent it all out 2 months before the contract expires. I got my new company in place, and then we started the switching process. And when that starts, then that's going to be another problem, because here's what happens. The new factoring company has to buy out all the invoices, all the receivables from the old factoring company. Sometimes they will charge you a fee for that, sometimes they will not. So you have to take a look at that too, whether they charge you a fee or not when you're moving over. So they have to get all those invoices from the old factoring company that are open. and then they will have to send these invoices, resend them to those brokers and tell them, hey, XYZ company, XYZ trucking company is working with us now. Instead of sending these other guys the payment, send it to us. So they have to have a release letter from the old factoring company. They have to have a contract from you, and they have to prove to the broker that you're moving over to them. For 90% of the invoices, that will be fine, but sometimes invoices get lost, or the broker is not paying, he's already late, and sometimes the new factoring company will not buy the old the invoices that are 2 or 3 months old or older. Sometimes they will not pay them. They will ask you to call up those brokers and ask them for payment. And then in the meantime, the brokers will be sending payments to the old factoring company because you're switching, and it takes, couple of weeks or even longer to switch. And while you're switching, the brokers might have sent the payments to the old factoring company. It's a new factoring company's job to call the old factoring company and get those new payments, but sometimes they will say, well, we didn't receive those payments, or we lost them, and that happens a lot. And then I would have to call the old factoring company and tell, hey, how come you lost it? Well, I called the broker, they said they paid it to you and it was cleared on that date. This is the check number, this is the ACH number, the transfer number. And then that's a game of cat and mouse. Everyone is just trying to locate it. So yeah, it takes about 2 months after you switch from old factoring company to the new factoring company to clear all those invoices, get all the payments, transfer all those open ones and the old ones and everything, and to start using that new factoring company only. It will take about a couple of months to do this. So I just wanted to tell you about that, and so you can be aware of that, that if something goes bad with a factoring company, that it's really hard to switch. Some people will not even deal with it. They will try, but then they will just give up and they will be stuck with them forever. So yeah, that's about it. If you like the channel, subscribe to it and like this video, and then I'll see you around.